Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to our May webinar. Welcome to Remento. We'll give everyone just a couple minutes to join us as they're logging in. It's wonderful to see everyone to our May webinar called Welcome to Remento. My name is Charlie Greene. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Remento. And on behalf of our entire team, I want to express my deepest gratitude for all of you who are here with us today. We've got an action-packed agenda for you all today. I want to start out by sharing a little bit of the context about why we set out in the first place to create Remento. Then we're going to do a deep dive into how the product actually works, from selecting prompts to recording stories to ultimately preparing and then printing your book. After that, we are incredibly lucky to be joined by two Remento customers who have very generously offered to share their experiences using the product. They'll talk about what it was like using Remento in their own families, some of the things they discovered along the way, and reflections that might be helpful for anyone who's just getting started. And then we have a surprise product announcement releasing the #1 feature we've heard from customers that they're looking for. So stay tuned. Especially for that. And then finally, we've reserved space for a Q&A, which will be an opportunity for each of you to submit your questions. And we'll get to as many of those as we can today. So with that administrative business out of the way, I'd like to transition to an overview of some of the why behind Remento. You know, each of us on our team has a different reason for caring about the preservation of family memories and stories. And for me personally, my own passion for the space stems very directly from personal experience. It was 9 years ago that my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. And after hearing that diagnosis, I remember being just absolutely terrified that we may never have a chance to introduce my mom to her grandchildren. And having lost my dad a few days before my 10th birthday, I knew personally from firsthand experience how painful it is to, one day wake up and be without someone that you love so much. And also how much I would have given in those years after my dad had passed away to be able to hear his voice just one more time. And so right before my mom started her chemotherapy, we sat down to record a series of her best stories. We were in effect creating a time capsule of her legacy, designed as a way to introduce her to the family that she frankly may never have a chance to meet. And what I thought I'd capture in those recordings are the stories I'd grown up hearing all of my life. But what blew me away was just how much I learned for the very first time, from moments in her career she had never talked about, to the stories of her falling in love with my dad, and all those stories, they just simply never come up. And as I was reflecting on those conversations, I really couldn't help but think to myself, why had it taken my mom getting cancer for me to really get to know her? And why, with multiple cameras in my pocket at any given time, I hadn't thought to record any of those stories for the future just in case. And it was from reflecting on that experience that the vision for Remento was born, which is to help families celebrate and preserve and protect the stories of their family by making it delightfully easy to document the memories that have made each of us who we are today. Now, as many of you know, our flagship product is our Remento book, which we refer to as our No Right memoir. And that's because the final product is a hardcover, color-printed keepsake book of life stories, created all without having to write a single word. So I'd love to transition into a deeper dive into how Remento actually works. Now, for those of you who have actually used Remento, this will be a review. But for those of you who haven't, this will, of course, be perhaps the first time you actually see how the product is used. So right here, I've got our website pulled up, remento.co. And from this screen, I'm going to go ahead and press login in the upper right-hand corner. That's going to invite me to sign into my fully private Remento account. Now, for many things you log into, you need a unique password. But at Remento, we don't actually use passwords, but instead rely on the security of your email to protect your account. So once you type in your email address, we'll email you a link. And when you click on that link in your Remento email, you'll be logged directly into your private Remento website. And that's where I've landed here. Now, it's worth noting that the experience I'm walking through right now is on my computer, but you can do all of this from any device, whether it's a laptop or an iPad or a smartphone. So right now I'm looking at the prompts page, And that's because I'm hosting Remento for my mom, Claudette, who I purchased Remento for and will be our storyteller. And that means I have the opportunity to customize her experience by selecting the prompts she'll respond to over the course of the year that she's got access to our product. So step number one is to pick what I want to learn about. I'm going to go ahead and press add prompts and see that I've got three options. The first is to upload a photograph, meaning that my mom will be asked to reflect on an image, whether that's a photograph of her childhood or a picture of a family trip or a photo of a family heirloom. The second option is a question from our question bank. And the last option is to create a poll among friends and family to learn exactly what others want to hear my mom talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and press add question, which is going to bring me to the Remento question bank. Now at Remento, we've teamed up with professional storytellers and memory scientists to develop questions designed specifically to stimulate the recall of unique and specific and often overlooked memories. So I'll begin by clicking on the childhood category, and you can see that Remento makes it really easy for me to pick and choose which questions I want to add. Now, in this case, I'm picking 2 questions for my mom, but if I bought Remento to document my own stories, the process would be the exact same. Once I'm satisfied with the selection, I can click next, and I can see that those questions are now added into my mom's queue. That means the first prompt in the list will be sent to her on this coming Wednesday, and the next prompt will be sent to her the following Wednesday. Now let's go back in and add a photograph. I'll click on add prompts again and then select the upload a photograph option. On this page, I can see that there are actually a few different ways to upload a photo. I can add a photo from Facebook, or I can add a photo from Instagram. Photos can be added via direct connection from either Google Drive or Dropbox, or I can manually upload a photo. So I'm going to go ahead and manually upload a photo that I have on my desktop. This right here is a photo of my parents from their wedding day. Unlike my wedding day, they only have 6 photos. I've got, I think, at least 6,000. If I want to make sure that my mom receives this prompt before the other 2 questions, all I have to do is drag that photo to the top of her queue. At the moment, we allow only 1 photo to be uploaded per prompt, but our team is actively working on making multiple photos available in the future. Also, we can default to 1 prompt sent per week, but you can also change that setting to be more frequent and on whatever days you'd like. Now, my sister actually has a ton of photos of my mom's childhood, so I'm going to go ahead and invite her to add some of those to my mom's queue as well. To do that, all I have to do is navigate to the invite button at the top of the screen, and then I can add her email address and then press invite. That will make her what we call a collaborator on the project, which means she can pick prompts and will be notified every time my mom creates a new story. Now, speaking of new stories, I want to bring you now over to what my mom will experience as a Remento storyteller, which is the same whether she received Remento as a gift or had purchased it for herself. You can see in the screen, we're looking at her iPhone, and she's just received a new message from Remento that it's time to record a new story. Now, for the record, my mom signed up for both SMS messages and also emails. So she's receiving a notification when it's time to record on both her email and on her text messages. When she clicks on the notification and then clicks on the message itself, you can see that she's brought directly into the recording studio. Now you notice she's greeted by name without any logins or downloads or passwords. And that's because the recording experience is accessed via the secure link that was sent, meaning she can start her private recording in just a few taps. And this experience, for the record, can be done on any device whatsoever, including your smartphone or tablet or laptop. So she can press continue, and you'll see that the photo that I had uploaded from my desktop is on her screen, along with the request to tell Remento if she wants to record video or audio only. Now, one of the things we hear all the time from storytellers is how they don't want to be recorded on video. Whether it's a bad hair day or bad lighting, everyone seems to have a reason. And that's really a shame, because when we talk to families, they tell us how much they love video recordings. So to all my storytellers who are in the audience today, if you're willing to give a video recording a shot, your family will definitely thank you. So my mom selects video and then sees that she's being asked to tell the story behind the photo and sees the big red button to start recording. Whenever she's ready, she can press that big red button. And after a 3-second countdown, she is now recording. So she can record up to 30 minutes in a single session. And then she can press stop recording whenever she is either in need of a break or when she's done. From here, she can watch the recording, decide she wants to retake the recording or submit it. In this case, she did an excellent job. So she'll press submit, and that's it for her story. And as a quick reminder, she can record as many stories as she wants within the year that she has access to Remento. There is no limit whatsoever. Now, if she wants to, she does have two other options. First, she can record another story. She can catch up on prompts that she may have missed. She can respond to prompts that are trending on Remento, or she can even add prompts of her own. Or second, she can review her stories, which will move her from the recording experience back to the website where she can actually see where the stories live. Now, let's bring it back to my world. Because she has submitted a recording, I, along with all of our collaborators, receive an email letting us know that there's a new story to check out. You can see that Remento has automatically summarized the content of her recording and is inviting me to play the recording itself. Of course, I want to watch this, so I naturally click on that button, and I'm brought into my mom's Remento private website. And here you have it. On the left side, you see my mom is speaking about this photo, and on the right side, you can see that Remento has taken her recording and transcribed it word for word. You can see that the first sentence reads almost exactly the way it came out of her mouth, and that's because when I set up Remento for my mom, I indicated that I wanted Remento to provide her words exactly as she shared them. But if I click on Make Changes at the bottom of the right part of your screen, I'm now in what we call editing mode. I can see that the text as it appears here is fully editable, and I can make changes however I see fit. Or I can move my mouse to the top of the screen where it says AI Editing Tools and go ahead and click on that. So right now, you can see that this is set to cleaned transcript by default. That means we're using basically the words that came out of my mom's mouth. But I can change the story perspective to either first person or third person as well. If I select first person, that means that Remento's speech to story technology is going to take her words and turn them into a polished story, kind of as if she had hired a ghostwriter to write them using her exact words. So I'll go ahead and press first person, and you'll see that Remento is giving me an option to select the length of the story. I'll opt to make it a bit shorter, and then I'll press generate preview. And what Remento is now doing is turning that transcript into a restructured written narrative using my mom's language and tone, written as if she had sat down and written it herself. You can see that the first line reads, "The photo was taken on the happiest day of my life up until that point." Now let's go ahead and see what the third person looks like. I'm going to go ahead and tap cancel. And now I'll ask Remento to create a version of the story in the third person, and I'll use the same length. And now you can see that we have a new title and new story written for us, written as if a biographer was writing about Claudette in the third person. The first line you can now see reads, "This story captured the joy of the happiest day in Claudette's life so far." So this version is great. I'm going to go ahead and press update story, and then I'll confirm that I'd like it to replace the previous version of writing. And as a reminder, everything on this page is completely editable. Now, my mom has shared a really beautiful story here. We've got a wonderful story written. If I want to let her know how much the story means to me, I can click on the heart icon at the bottom of the screen. And doing so will allow me to send my mom a reaction message that the story she's just told is incredibly beautiful, which is going to be emailed directly to her. So I'm going to go ahead and send that message now. And just like that, my message has been sent. Now, my mom is a really prolific writer, prolific storyteller, and she's been using Remento for a while. So if we close out of this page and head over to the story section of the private website, you can see that she's recorded dozens of stories. Some of them are from her childhood. Others are of a more recent photograph of her dropping me off at college, as an example. We've got a lot of images, actually, of family heirlooms as well that she's told the story behind. In her case, I've uploaded most of these photos into the prompts for her, meaning she was looking at them as she told the story. But photographs can also be uploaded to stories after they've been recorded, which is a really nice way of being able to bring the story to life. Speaking of ways to bring the stories to life, it's now time to go ahead and create our book. So if I press Order Books on the left-hand side, I can see that I'm brought to a screen where I can customize the cover of my mom's stories. So on this page, I can see that I can add a photograph to the front cover. I can customize the text, and I can also change the color of the book. And then I can press Next. And here I'll have the opportunity to customize the inside of the book. I can specifically exclude stories from being included. I can reorder the stories that I'd like to include. I can drag them up and drag them down. And in her case, I'm doing that to be able to get them into roughly chronological order. And then I can tap next to confirm that I'm ready to move forward and preview a copy of the book. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see a preview exactly how this book is going to be laid out. We've got a table of contents at the top, and then each chapter includes a QR code. And what's, of course, really special about these QR codes is that when you scan them, you'll be able to actually hear the recording that was used to write each story. And I can show you exactly what that looks like. Right here is what my mom's Remento book actually looks like. You can see it's printed in color. It's 8 inches by 10 inches, and it's printed on double thick paper. And if anyone scans the QR code at the start of each chapter, they'll be able to play the recording that was used to write that story. That way, no one in your family, whether it's this year or 100 years from now, is ever going to be without these stories or the voices behind each one. So that concludes a walkthrough of how the product actually works. As a reminder, we're going to be doing a Q&A towards the end of the webinar. So if you do have questions, you can start thinking about them. But in the meantime, I want to transition us over to a really, really special conversation that we've got with 2 Remento customers coming up that we've got with us today. Both of them have used Remento as a gift for their dads. And today they're joining us to talk about what that experience was like, what they learned along the way, and the impact of this investment ultimately that it had on their families. So with us, we've got Jackie and Simone, and I think their stories are really going to resonate with many of you joining today, and we're incredibly grateful for them joining us today. So Jackie and Simone, welcome to our webinar. So thankful to have you both.
Happy to be here.
Jackie, I'd love to start with you. I know the last time we spoke, you talked about some of the research that you had done into a variety of different storytelling platforms. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about why ultimately Remento felt like it'd be the best fit for your dad.
Yeah, that's a very good question. My dad suffered from 2 back-to-back strokes. He had one on the anniversary of my mother's passing. She died during the pandemic. And writing became like a really big challenge for him. And so I had seen, information on Storyworth and a few other ones, but the idea of him writing was just too big of a challenge. But we really wanted to create something. So I was trying to think of ways we can do it. And I stumbled across Remento, and I was like, this is exactly what we wanted. And we were about 2 months into it. And my dad loves getting the prompts. And it's kind of been a joy for us to keep that, something that I didn't have for my mom, that I'm really sad I never had. But what a joy that I'm able to have this and capture this for my dad.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Simone, I want to ask you a similar question about why Remento was ultimately a good fit in your family. And I would also love to ask a secondary question, which is when we talked last, you talked about learning some really amazing stories about your dad through this process. So I'd love to know both about how you came to find Remento, and then also maybe you can share a little bit about what you learned about your dad.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the first time I even thought about writing down my father's story was maybe 3 years ago. We were at a birthday dinner for him. My sister and I were twins. We both live in Wisconsin at the time. And I just realized my dad was in the music business. So he co-wrote Girl, You Know It's True for Milli Vanilli, and he was in a band called Starpoint. So our entire life, all he talked about was his music career. It was his passion. It was his love. I realized, I said to him, I think at that time, we were talking at the table, and his friend said, oh yeah, your dad would be a really good soccer player. Like he could have gone pro. And I said, okay. And I realized I didn't really know much about my dad outside of that. So it prompted me to start thinking about asking him stories and creating that. But as you know, time goes by, and, we would connect on Sundays, and I'd hear more about it. And I'd tell myself, I've got to write it down. I've got to write it down. I even thought I took a design course, and I thought, okay, I can make one as well. But, it takes work to do that, obviously. Charlie would definitely know. And then it was last summer, I wanted to get more serious about capturing those stories, because I realize time is flying by and there's so much that he's been sharing with our family. One of my favorite stories he shared with me is when he my dad had a very cultured life outside of music. He was born in Michigan, spent time in Barbados with that side of the family, took a plane to the UK and took a boat down to Nigeria. On his way, he told me about his first like tropical bird that he saw. And when I saw the light in his eyes, I knew I had to capture that. And I had started to see Remento come up, and I was like, oh yeah, but I can write it down or I can record it. And I kept it for a while. And then I had this weird feeling start to come up. And, of course, you want to listen to your intuition, but I kind of ignored it. And then it was maybe February of this year, something in me, it just kept, I'm like, I have to get it. Something in me is like, get Remento now. And I said, okay, well, I'm just going to go with it, And I got it on February 21st of this year. And I said, hey, Dad, here's this ability like to create your stories and make it a book. And he actually really liked it, and it was easy for him. Well, come to find, March 15th of this year, we found out he had stage 4 liver cancer. And so that kind of like pushed me to get more stories. And I think maybe we had, I don't know, but basically like we found this out and I was happy that I got that. And I thought, okay, good. When he's going through chemo, we're going to collect more stories. And so I had planned to come visit him at the beginning of April. And unfortunately, he caught sepsis and he passed away within a couple of days after getting there. So April 7th, he passed away. And, I'm still coming to terms with it. But I realized I was really happy I took that step, because as far as I knew, like it was a feeling inside, but we didn't have anything to say like he was sick and we found out things after the fact, but like I didn't know he was in that bad condition. I thought it was the flu or something. And, fathers always want to protect their children. And so, he kept a lot of things. But I felt really blessed to be able to capture those stories. And my sister said the same. And I had actually reached out because I wanted to continue to capture a story, because there was this whole side of him, like, especially through hospice, that we didn't know. He was gone. I was like, how can I capture more of him through those stories? So I reached out to the team, and then we were able to work together to kind of find a solution. So yeah, that was mine.
Well, Simone, yeah, we're also sorry for your loss, and it's such an important reminder. I think that we always think we have more time. So many of us think that we have more time, and there is no time like the present to be able to make this kind of investment, right? So many of us think about, financial planning, estate planning as things that are responsible to do. I think one of the things that we hope to be able to do is make legacy planning something that feels second nature to families, as in the same way that other things are felt to be the right thing to do. Jackie, I wonder if I could ask if there's anything along the journey of doing Remento with your dad. You're still in the early innings of creating his Remento book. If there's anything you've learned about him that you found to be particularly interesting or important.
Yeah, I liked when you shared how you thought you were going to capture the same stories that you've heard throughout your childhood, which is true, but there's nuance to the stories and details that are just so beautiful and particularly hearing it in his voice and knowing that I can go back and like look at this. It's been a joy. Like we're doing it kind of chronologically now. So like listening to his childhood, and he was an army brat, and what it was like. They moved to Italy, and like he was on a boat, and it was like all linoleum, and like his sister had like a bottle, and it was like a glass bottle, and you remember it breaking, and just details like that you would never be able to keep unless you like sat somebody down. I will say, for people who are listening, he was nervous at first about making a recording, and he's a former, he served for 28 years. He's an Army colonel, like wanted it to be perfect. But I think given life's experiences, we lost my mom. He had these back-to-back strokes. He was diagnosed with metastatic cancer. It kind of came to the point where if we don't do this, we're not going to have these stories, or it's going to come down to me to like somehow, right? Like Simone, like how can I do this? But it's really hard. And Remento's made it very easy. So he sits down, he's gotten over this perfectionist tendency. And what I like is if he records something and he's not in love with it, we can go in and like edit in the actual words, like what we want the story to come out with. So you have a lot of, I would say, don't feel pressure to get the story perfect, just get the story out.
Hmm. And Jackie, maybe we can just stay with you for a sec because you have a writing background. And I know when we spoke, we were building the product to begin with. A lot of writers that we spoke with, including people who were professional ghostwriters, thought to themselves, this could never work because there's no way that you're ever going to be able to recreate the style and craft of professional writing. And for the record, we're not competing with writers. But I'm wondering if you can share with the audience a little bit about your experience with the actual process of the recordings being transformed into writing and how you've engaged with that and made it a part of your workflow.
Yeah. I enjoy this. I'm like my dad's like curator of his memoir. So I've like gone in, both use the bank of questions, which are, I think, a really great starting point of like, oh, these are great. Like, I want to capture this arc of this man's life. But also, oh, right, like the heirlooms you're talking about, the photos. So going in and like, for him, he's a veteran. So talk about like what it was like, at this assignment, at this post, and what was hard. As a writer, so we're in the earlier stages of his journey, and it's been very fun for me to like go in and actually edit his story. Remento does a really great job of taking out like the ums and the ahs, but being able to, I've also been using my own form of AI, like going into ChatGPT and like restructuring a story. So it's like polished. And my dad likes to say and, which for recording is beautiful. Like I love that I see his personality, but for reading it, it's been fun to go in and just kind of smooth it out just a little bit. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to, right? Like you've got the great technology there. I just enjoy it. So.
And that's a really important point, Jackie, is that for people who want to be hands-on with this, whether you're a storyteller or the family member of the storyteller, you can be in there and making changes and edits. And for storytellers who aren't interested and maybe don't want to inconvenience their family, it's not a necessary part of having the book created.
No, it's perfect either way. So it's right. Choose your own adventure, how much you want to be involved, how little. It all comes out. At the end of the day, you get a beautiful product, a beautiful book, and those stories are captured.
Yeah. Simone, I want to ask you, the last time we spoke, you talked about recommending Remento in your job. You talked about when you were navigating hospice, you were recommending it in that capacity. I wonder when you think about recommending the product, maybe you can share a little bit about why this is something that you feel is important for others to know about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's one, I can just say that it's such a fast-paced world that we a lot of times don't have the moment to stop and really understand people. And through this journey and through Remento, I've learned a lot about my dad that allowed me to give him more grace for the decisions that he made in the past, how he was as a person in general. So right now, I was working at Costco for a bit, and I am, and whenever I notice someone like a really cute family or someone that had something that was going on, I recommended Remento because I think that a gift that we can give people is sharing our stories, even if it isn't gifted to us. I have my dad's friend hadn't saw his kid for a while. My parents were divorced for a while, and I think we missed out on that growing up as well, things that you would have loved to share. And I told them it's a way to connect with your family beyond where you are now and beyond your passing. So I was going to say, I recommended it in hospice too, just because I will say that, as my father was declining, it was the one joy that he had. His girlfriend said, "Hey, your dad, it's like he doesn't have a lot of energy at all to do anything. He wasn't eating. He couldn't keep any food down or drink, but he still had a light in his eyes sharing his story." And I thought that was the most beautiful gift to give someone. And I get the tingles just because I think a lot of people have had in my life that I haven't been able to capture that. I had an ex that passed away right before his 30th birthday, and I realized we didn't take a lot of pictures. So I started taking more pictures. And so I think getting to know people in general, and asking them their story, it doesn't matter if they're sick or they're in their best years and healthy. I think that as soon as you can capture that story, the more you know about them, the more you'll actually learn about yourself if it's family members. Because during the hospice time, I really learned how similar I was to my dad. And, even family decisions, why your family is a certain way or why they make decisions a certain way. Because I think a lot of times we just kind of wonder, why people do the things that they do. And when you take the time to understand their story, sometimes you get the answers that you're looking for.
It's such an important point. Like, life is complicated. Not everyone lives a picture perfect life, but the process of talking about memories that have made you the person you are can actually be very cathartic, and it can feel good. And people who haven't experienced that yet, we often hear from our customers, come to realize how much they appreciate it. And then they're overjoyed when they hear that it actually is meaningful to their families as well, which I think is the case in the content that your dad shared for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jackie, I want to ask you. We talked about you as the writer thinking about the value of the book and the text, and that is a really important piece of this. One of the things that we care a lot about at Remento is also the recordings, whether it's audio or audio plus video. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about what it means to you to have those recordings as the complement to the actual stories in text form.
Yeah, absolutely. It's particularly meaningful because after my mom passed during the pandemic, that was the moment I realized we didn't have videos. We didn't have her voice. And I clung to the few that I have are gold. Like, I will cherish like just the seconds of her laugh that I have. But it did make me realize how important it is to get our loved ones on videos. And so for my dad, it is a joy to hear his laughter, because you read a story and it reads one way, but the video is your loved one and their nuances, right? The way they like look off in the distance and the way they laugh, like I will cherish that memory, particularly because I know that I miss that with my mom, and that being able, like, he's alive, he's here, what a joy, but just knowing that, I have this. My kids will get to see this if they have kids, right? Like, it will just go on and they will get to see what their grandfather was like and all his little nuances and what he wore. He wears this little like army shirts, and like he always has a little baseball hat on, but so it's a joy.
Yeah, it's we sometimes hear from our storytellers who are wondering, why would you want to hear my stories? Has my life actually been consequential enough to be worth documenting? And I think what you just said speaks exactly to the why this is important. It's not about the mountains you climbed or the obstacles you overcame, although those are important. It's just being able to hear that person speak and be able to carry that forward it's such a gift to a family to be able to make that available.
Absolutely.
Okay, Simone, I've got one more question for you, and then Jackie, I have one more question for you as we wrap up. Simone, my last question for you is there. We've got an audience today who are a combination of people who are using our product, who are maybe thinking about using our product, or maybe thinking about buying the product. I wonder if you have any thoughts about a misconception that you think folks in our audience might have. What's a misconception that you think some people may have around using Remento or a tool like Remento to be able to preserve stories?
Yeah, probably a couple things. One, like Jackie said, perfectionism. I think I can be one at times too. We want it to read a certain way. And so I think we get in our heads about it. So we think about it, and then we regret not doing those things. And so just going ahead, jumping in, knowing that you can edit is a huge thing. Like, I had a story that my dad shared, and it went in one direction that I was like, it was beautiful. And then it went in one direction where I was like, no, not like, I don't want that part of the book, And so being able to kind of like edit out some of that stuff, like it's great, but this, like she said, that's I want to be able to share this with people. I want to have it like on my coffee table when people come around and they wonder about my father. And I will say too, one other thing about Remento is when I capture the stories with him, it's actually really helped me plan for his celebration of life because it happened so quick. And he tried to get a will together and all of that stuff. And he was young at heart. His parents lived to 87 and 93, never had cancer on that side of family. So we knew very, very few things. And so I went back through his stories, and it's helped me be able to create this beautiful celebration of life that we have coming up and to really capture him, because I know he would have wanted to have a party and a celebration. So I'm happy to have that information that I do have in there. And it's kind of fun when I get to share that with people that have known him forever and still don't know some of these stories. So, and I'm very excited to be able to capture that with the other people that are at that celebration of life coming up. So I'm excited to hear more, because you'd be surprised the things that you hear about your family members, even though you live with them, you talk with them all the time. I learned that my father was this most gracious, humble person. And mind you, he was, a little bit of a celebrity at a point. Well, he felt like he was, but, because he had music industry, but he was also this person that would just be there for you, that would show up, that would make you laugh. He definitely thought he was funnier than me, but, we get better as we, down the generation. But, I'll let him have that one. So, yeah. So just, go for it. Every misconception is just one that you've created in your head. And why not try it? You can try it and delete it versus not try it and miss the opportunity. So.
Yeah, it's so well said. One of the things that resonated with me about your comment is this notion of humility being a virtue. People who are humble, we celebrate because they are not bragging about their experiences, and at the same time, sometimes a humble brag is important. Like, let your family know how cool you were, the things you did.
Well, I was a little embarrassed sometimes when I was a child. I'd be like, oh my gosh, and I was talking about this music all the time. But now I'm like, that's my dad. That's my dad. So yeah.
Yeah. Jackie, I've got one final question for you. We've got a mix of people on the call, but I wonder if you could speak to the storytellers who are on the call, both current, aspiring. I wonder if you have any advice for them as they think about sharing their stories with Remento based on your experience with your dad.
That's a great question. My advice would be, no perfectionism. I think sometimes we wonder, what is the point of these small little stories? I think of my kids and they ask questions like, I wonder what this was like, or, they have things going on in their life. And it's like, oh, well, actually, Grandpa went through something like this. So we live in Mexico City now. That's hard for kids to like move, leave their home behind, leave their friends behind. So it's been kind of fun to show like my kids, oh, like your grandpa did this too. And you can extrapolate that to so many of your stories if you have loved ones, friends, yourself, right? This is also a really great opportunity, I think, to redefine or to define your life, right? Like if you actually have the right and the power to share your story and the narrative and claim it the way that you want. And I think that's pretty powerful too. We all come from very different life experiences. So be able to say, this was my experience for good or for bad, right? There's value that comes in sharing, the bad things. One of the stories we're going to capture for my dad is, what was it like, falling in love with my mom, but also what was it like losing her? What was it like navigating sickness? I think these are maybe questions that aren't always talked about, but are very important for us to connect. It's multifactorial for yourself, to kind of define what the experience is for you, but also to connect with others who might be curious.
It's such an important point around the value of intergenerational connection around those positive stories, as well as those moments of setback, and how resilience can become part of the DNA of a family. And
Absolutely.
You only have the opportunity to benefit from that as a subsequent generation if it's something that you're aware of. And many families shy away from that. Well, Jackie and Simone, you both are so wonderful. I so appreciate you being on this call with us today. You can imagine a deafening round of applause from all of our hundreds of participants who are with us today. And Simone, we're of course going to be thinking about you as you get ready to celebrate your dad and his legacy next month when your family gathers. So, on behalf of everyone with us today and everyone on our team, thank you both so much for being a part of our May webinar. Deeply appreciate you both.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie.
So with that, I'm going to transition us back to our agenda to go through these last two pieces that we have. I want to introduce now a really exciting feature that we have been working on for many months now, and we've been getting feedback and requests for at this point over a year. But before we do, I want to invite everyone to start sharing your questions in the chat feature, and be sure you can add a thumbs up next to questions that you share, because we're going to be using the number of thumbs up to organize the way that we ultimately respond to these questions. Also, at the top of the chat, there's a link pinned where you can share your feedback about the webinar. And if you do share that feedback, you'll be entered into a chance to win one of 2 free book credits. So we'll be getting to the live Q&A in just a few moments, but for now, I want to bring us back to our agenda, and we've got an exciting new feature to announce. It's without a doubt the #1 feature that has been requested among any others. And while many storytellers enjoy including a single photo with their story, for others, one image is just not enough. Sometimes one photo can't fully capture the depth of a memory or a moment, which is why we're thrilled to announce a product update that just went live, the ability to add multiple photos to a single story. That means you can now include a primary photo that includes at the start of your story, both digitally and in print, and then add additional photos that can be printed at the end of your story if you choose. So you'll also be able to add captions to those photos, as well as reorder the photos and select which ones you want to serve as that primary image. And that primary photo is what people will see while listening to the recordings, but they'll always be able to scroll through and also look through the rest. It's a feature that is actually live in our product right now. So you can go ahead and check it out and start adding multiple photos to your stories, including stories that you have already recorded in the past. So we're really excited to be bringing this feature to the Remento community, and we can't wait to hear all about the photos you add to all of your Remento projects. So with that, we're going to go ahead and switch over to our live Q&A. I can see that we've got lots of questions coming in, and we can go ahead and queue up our first question, which comes from Joe. Hello, Joe Lynn. Can I do this on my phone? If you're talking about the webinar, the answer is you can watch the webinar on your phone. And if the question is, can you record stories using Remento from your phone? The answer is yes. You can record from any device, iPhone, Android phone, a tablet like an iPad, a laptop, a desktop computer, and there are no downloads or logins or passwords. All you need is a device that has a camera, a microphone, and connectivity to the internet. So Jolyn, thank you so much for the question there. Robin is asking, will I have access to watch this back? The answer is yes. We're going to be sending this recording to everyone who registered. So you'll be able to watch this at your leisure. Thanks, Robin. We have Robin again. I do not have a navigation side once I log in. I have to go to my prompts only through an email you send me. When I get to the prompts page, the only thing there are my prompts. The rest of the page is blank. So Robin, this may be an issue when you're on your phone. There are 3 lines in the upper left-hand corner, and you need to click on those 3 lines to be able to open up the navigation between your prompts, your existing stories, the ability to order a book, and the settings. So look, it's called a hamburger menu. It's 3 horizontal lines. Click on that on your phone. And if you're not seeing that for whatever reason, reach out to us at support@remento.co, and we'll make sure that there's not a technical issue on your end. But thank you for raising that. It's a great question. Marianne is asking, my question is, can I include my sisters in my responses? I see that you can add them as collaborators. How does that work? So the way Remento is designed right now is to be able to have one person share stories of their life, their background. So Marianne, you can invite your sister to participate in the creation of your book, aka you recording your stories. At this point, we don't have a way to invite your sister to be able to share her reflections of stories. You would be the storyteller for your book, although we have heard a lot of feedback that people want to be able to source recorded answers from multiple people, like Simone was mentioning for the memorial service, being able to collect feedback from a variety of people. So that's something that's on our product roadmap, and we look forward to being able to bring into the product in the future. But for right now, your collaborator, as invited, is given the ability to help pick your prompts, provide reactions to your stories, and then ultimately help you edit the text if you like, but they are not someone who's actually recording stories. Lynn is in Canada. How can I get my physical books, my physical photos to you so you can add them to my account? So Lynn, we have a partnership with a platform called Legacy Box, which is the largest digitizer of photographs, of physical photos in the United States. We don't have a partner yet that's doing digitization in Canada. So that is on our list to be able to explore. For people who are based in the US, when you buy Remento, you can purchase the Legacy Box add-on. We will ship you a physical box that you can place your old photos into. They'll be digitized and then can be added into your Remento account. So Lynn, right now my recommendation would be to either find a digitization service that's local to you and then upload them into your Remento account the way I showed earlier, or you can use your camera to just take a photo of the actual image that you have and then upload that to your Remento account. And we'll keep you posted when we find a digitization partner in Canada that can support you in the same kind of easy way that we're working with Legacy Box for US-based customers. Hey, Matt, are you able to hold the stories and feedback to family until the book or stories are done? Yeah, absolutely. So when someone buys Remento for themselves, for example, they have the ability to invite family members or not. So we've actually had lots of customers who want to keep this as a solo project and then invite people to it after the fact. So collaborators, as we call them, can be added at any point early in the customer journey, right when you purchase the product, or potentially years into the future. Matt, again, thanks for the second question. What happens if you don't finish in the 1 year? Extend the subscription? Yeah, that's exactly right. So the way that our business model works is when you buy Remento for $99, you're buying a access to our digital product for 1 year. And with that access, you're able to record stories, have them transformed into stories based on your selection, and then ultimately print the book. And it also includes a credit for a hardcover color printed book that looks exactly like this. This is my mom's book right here. At the end of the year, if you want to continue recording stories, it's just $99 for that second year, or $12 a month to be able to continue recording new stories. If at the end of the year you've created your book, you're not interested in recording more stories, then there's no need to resubscribe. You can continue to access all of the content in your Remento family private website without an additional subscription fee. Thanks for the question, Matt. Deb is asking, if you change the wording to first person or third person or just cleaning it up, how does that sync up to the video where they are speaking in the original version? So when you go ahead and transition from the original transcript to the first person or the third person, it breaks the word for word connection between the video and the written text. So if you're in the clean transcript mode, you can play the video and you can basically almost read exactly what was coming out of their mouth, with a couple of punctuation changes and sometimes words adjusted if they were saying things that were not related to the story. But if you're transitioning to the first or the third person, that line by line connection wouldn't be there. You would presumably read the words and or watch the story, but not at the same time. Margaret is asking, if you choose video once, you can choose just audio next time if you want. Also, is everything editable till printed? So yes, exactly. When you sign in, or I should say, when you say that you're ready to record a new recording, you have the ability to pick between audio and video. And every time you're going to be recording, you're going to be asked, do you want to record in audio or video? And again, my plea to all of our storytellers out there is, please, if you feel comfortable, record yourself in video. You don't have to have perfect hair. You don't have to have perfect lighting. But someday your loved ones will want to be able to hear your voice, as well as see the mannerisms as you tell your stories, your smile, your laughter, the smirk on your face. And then, yes, you're right. Everything in the book, all of the text, all of the photographs, all of the titles, all of the captions are editable until you print. And then if you print a book and realize you want to add more stories, make changes, you can actually make changes and then print it again. And that happens often. We have people who will create a variety of different versions of their book for different family members, for different occasions, people who will create a second book to be able to document something totally separate. So yes, everything is editable before, during, and after the printing process. Hey, Mark, can you explain what collaborators do and who can assign them as collaborators? So we basically have 3 roles in Remento. One is the storyteller. That's the person who's telling stories. The second is the host. That's the person who has purchased the product for the storyteller. The host doesn't exist if the storyteller bought Remento for themselves, which plenty of people do. And then collaborators are people who are invited to the project to be able to both watch and read stories as they're created, as well as to help with the editing process. So when collaborators are invited, they can read the stories that are written, they can watch the recordings that are created, they can upload photographs to existing stories, they can pick questions from the question bank that can be added to the queue, they can upload photos to be turned into prompts that the storyteller can then respond to. They can create what we referred to earlier as a family poll, inviting other family members to be able to vote on the stories that they want to hear most. And that person can also order a book using all of the stories that have been created. So collaborators have a lot of access to be able to both be engaged with the creation of content, the editing of content and the preparation for the book, and then ultimately the ordering of the book as well. And I will say that a storyteller can add a collaborator or remove a collaborator at any time. Maximum size of the book. So when you buy Remento, our books have a standard length of 200 pages. If your book is over 200 pages, we have a $30 fee that we charge, and it allows us to print books that are up to 380 pages. So the max page count is 380 pages. And if your book is 381 pages, what we recommend doing is doing a volume 1 and a volume 2. And we make that really easy to have a version of your book that includes the first set of stories and then a second book that includes the remaining stories. While I work with Remento, if I have a question about something, how do I contact a Remento rep? Easiest way to get in contact with us is through our email, support@remento.co. We have a chatbot that we use to be able to surface answers as quickly as possible. But if you ever want to speak with someone directly, we always give you the ability when you email to be able to be connected directly with a customer support representative. And we do our best to be in touch with you within a couple of business days. Carolyn, is the second photo smaller? It is smaller. Yeah. So we talked about the multiple photos feature. Every story, when you upload a photo, will have a primary photo position, and then subsequent photos will be printed in the part of the story after the actual text. And those are technically a little bit smaller. So if you've got a photo that you'd like to be bigger than the rest, we recommend having that would be the primary photo. William is asking, can you put an older video onto the story? It's a great question, William. We get this one a lot. The answer is not currently. We don't have a way of being able to replace the recording process with an existing video, although that's something that we hear a lot. We know that some customers have held up their phone playing a video to their camera to be able to get the content into Remento, but this is something that's on our product roadmap, and we would love to be able to accommodate in the future. So thanks for the excellent question there. Hi, Julie. Okay, questions. Does it have to be recorded on cell? Can you use a computer? What program? Can you download the actual story? Can you start the recording, stop, and then add to it? These are great questions. So let me go one at a time. Does it have to be recorded on a cell? No, you can use any device, cell, tablet, desktop, laptop. Just has to have a camera, a microphone, and internet connection. Can you use a computer? Yes. What program? You can use Safari, Chrome, Firefox. It works on any internet browser that you have. Can you download the actual story recorded? Yes, you can download any recordings from Remento at any time. No active subscription necessary. Can you start the recording, stop, and then add to it? Yes, you can. There's a pause feature, which is great for if the doorbell rings or you need to take a sip of water. Can you record? You can record 30 minutes per story. How many pages per story does that work into? What is the front. So there's no standard length. You saw earlier in the speech to story piece, there are 3 different options: a cleaned transcript, first person, and third person. Clean transcript is basically word for word. If you speak at a normal speed, it's one length. If you speak fast, it's a shorter length. And if you speak slow, it's a longer length. So we don't have general guidance on how long the clean transcript will take. It'll depend on your storyteller. There's obviously huge variety with how fast people speak. And then you can make the text shorter or longer if you're using the speech to story to be able to pick from either a first person or third person. So if you're looking to have the text be more of a summary, you'd make it shorter. And if you want it to be longer, you can just slide the scale. And then what is the front? Maybe you mean the front of the book. The front of the book includes a title, a byline, and a photograph. Thanks for the great questions, Julie. Jacqueline, you're saying my mother cannot use digital devices. How can I set up the product for me to record her instead? This is really easy. So there are 2 options. You can either, if your mom has an email account but isn't very familiar, you can set it up so that Remento is sending her messages. And when you go sit with her, you can just log into her email account and hit record now and catch up on her stories that way. The other thing you can do is you can sit down with your mom using your phone or your tablet and your laptop. You can log into Remento, pull up her prompts, and there's a button that says record now. And when you click on record now, it'll ask, are you recording as Jacqueline, or are you recording as your mom's name? And you'll just select your mom's name, and it will save the recording that you create as her reflection to that prompt. So it's a great question. We have a lot of storytellers who have family members that are not comfortable using digital technology at all, and that's how they're able to accommodate. Hey, Tim. Remento is a gift for my daughter, and I understand when I make an entry, she'll be notified. Can others have access as I build my book? Yeah, absolutely. So that's what the collaborator tool is for. So your daughter will automatically have access because she's the one that gifted you the gift, but either you or your daughter can add members of your family via the invite feature that we have. And every time you record a new story, they'll receive an email with both a summary of what you shared, as well as the actual recording for them to play themselves. Hey, Carol, if the person telling the stories loses his language skills, can other people fill in by telling stories about that person instead? Yeah, Carol, this is a similar question to what was asked earlier and similar to what Simone was talking around the memorial. So Remento right now is really made for one person to be able to share their stories. That being said, we have had customers who will take a recording link and actually email that on their own to someone else, and it does work. So if you did want a variety of people to be able to share stories about that person, you would just take the recording link that he would have been using, that would have been sent to him. You just copy that and you send it to someone else, and they'll be able to effectively pretend to be your dad in the system, is the way that it will work. But what I will say, Carol, is this is feedback that we're getting very consistently, and we do want to be able to build a version of the product that allows for the collection of stories beyond just told by the storyteller. Wonderful question. Thank you for that. Marie, how do I know when my subscription started? So Marie, if you received Remento as a gift from someone in your family, it would have started on the day that you received the welcome email to Remento. If you purchased Remento for yourself, it would have started on the day that you made the purchase. Annie, when you change the story in the text, when you scan the QR code, I'm assuming you'll see the original video. Yeah, that's exactly right. When you scan the QR code, it will play the recording that was used to write the first draft of that story, which will be fully editable by you or anyone who's been invited to collaborate. And Julie, can Remento books be sent to multiple persons in different countries? Yes, exactly. We can. We currently have shipping capabilities to Australia, to New Zealand, to Canada, to European countries. So yes, we are able to ship books to multiple different people. And many of our storytellers, once they finish their book, want multiple copies to be shipped to different people. So yeah, that's all possible. And we've got time for one more question. And we'll see. The last question we have time for, unfortunately, is from Marie. And Marie is writing, is each story on its own page regardless of the length? I think the answer is yes. Every story, yes, every story will be on its own page. Most stories, I will say, take up at least one full page, especially if there's a photograph. So we would not have two stories that are on one page, but with the QR code and the title and the text, generally speaking, that hasn't been an issue that we perceived. So that's a really good question, though. And you can, of course, take a look when you actually start building your book. You can look at the preview that I walked through earlier to be able to see, what the book will actually look like as it's laid out. So with all that being said, we've reached the end of our webinar. I want to thank everyone for staying through this entire period. I want to, of course, reiterate my thanks to Jackie and to Simone. At Remento, we are constantly looking for feedback. So if you could take just a moment to please go ahead and fill in some feedback in the link that is tagged in the comments section. I would really, really appreciate that. And if you have any feedback that you'd like to share about the product, please feel free to reach out to our team. Our email is support@remento.co. We're always trying to make the product better, and it's only by way of feedback from all of you that we're able to do that. So on behalf of our entire team at Remento, thank you all so much for being a part of our community, and we will see you at our next webinar. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you again for joining.